Welcome back to Doing Business in Bentonville. I am your host, Josh Saffran of the, what are we called, Harvey? The Warehouse Whiskered Warriors? Is that what we are? The W's?
The W's.
And again, nice job with Graham today. Graham, you can do it. You can do W.
Graham's sport.
It's kind of, you maybe like thumbs up a little bit. There you go. There we go. I like that. But I see that you didn't shave for us today, so I'm glad we prepped you to be a part of the Warehouse Whiskered Warriors.
Absolutely. Who's the mascot?
And this is my whiskered animal today. I had an actual whiskered animal, but my 3-year-old stole it upon daycare drop-off, and I got stuck with her lovey. So
what you're saying is you're unprepared and your 3-year-old just damaged our podcast.
Dogs have whiskers. Just this one's very ladylike. Yeah.
Well, okay. So we are under the Doing Business in Bentonville umbrella. I am your host, Josh Saffran. I lead the Plug and Play office here in Northwest Arkansas, focused on supply chain innovation. And my co-host is Mr. Harvey Williams, the man with the W in his last name. Harvey, give an introduction to the group.
Hey, folks. Great to be here. We're back. We've got another good one with Mr. Graham from Ship Angel.
Graham, I love the picture in the background. Very cool. I'm feeling motivated just by seeing all the colors this morning. Give us a quick hello and a bio and a hello to all the millions and millions of viewers listening.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, guys. It's great to be here. And my name is Graham Parker. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Ship Angel, which is a software enterprise software company that works exclusively with the shipper BCO market. We're headquartered in New York, where I am today in our office. And we're just over kind of a year into our journey. And our core product today is a rate management platform that takes shippers' rates, keeps them up to date in a global single source of truth, and then enriches them with a ton of data to help them make better freight decisions.
All right, we're going to have a lot to talk to you about. Before we get into that, Miss Elena, what you got for us today to officially break some ice?
All right, let's break this ice. So today we are playing 2 Lies and a Truth. And so we're doing it with startup names. And I did research. I can't guarantee that all of these are not real startup names, but they should be in my quick looking. But Josh, I'm going to give you 3 names, and you're going to have to pick which one is the real startup name. Currently in business, in supply chain, very specifically in supply chain.
Because I'm not very good at this game. Only one of them is real. The other 2 are not?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So,
if there's any fun spelling.
If you spell like Harvey's Wallbangers, Josh's Jerseys, and Ship Angel, I'd say Ship Angel. Just making sure I'm clear.
Yes.
Okay. See, Harvey, I need clarification.
But can we also ask Josh to have to spell as well?
Well, we don't have the time, Harvey.
SCHIEP, Ship Angel. But Graham, apologies. I know that's not how it's spelled.
Close enough. Maybe better.
All right, Josh, you're up first. So we have the 3 names are Apollo Transit, Zeus Labs, and Hermes Logics with an X.
I'm going with the X marks the spot. That's the real one.
Wrong. Zeus Labs is the real one.
Oh, I'm so bad at these icebreakers.
All right, Harvey, your turn.
It's the soft landing that we all need.
Okay. It's only up from here. So we have Books, Optiflow, and Haulwise.
We're going for the real one. Optiflow.
Nope, it's Books. BOOX. All right, Graham, it's all on your shoulders now.
Ooh, pressure's on. Pressure's on.
Pressure. So our 3 are Carbon Chain, Provisioneer, and Speedify.
Carbon Chain?
That's correct.
Oh my gosh, you had the answers in the chat. He knew that.
Well, Graham's gone through the torture of having to name multiple companies in his career.
That's true. I was thinking, what's the coolest name? Carbon Chain one.
I'm not even good enough to name my kids, and we have 6 of them, so therefore this is not a fair exercise for me. Are we doing this another time? Or just one? Oh boy, okay.
That was a good warm-up. Great job, Graham. Very impressive.
I just want
Is that it? We're only doing it once?
That's it. Yeah, you all get. Oh, sorry. No, again later in another recording.
So what I'm hearing you say is Graham is a winner, but Harvey and I are not losers. We just didn't do well.
Yeah, you have another chance to redeem yourselves at a later time.
The participation trophy's in the mail, Josh.
It's a little puppy.
Thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
All right, Graham, since you won, we get to focus on you. Had Harvey and I won, we would focus on Harvey or myself, but we have no choice but to talk about Ship Angel. So how'd you get started? I know that you've had multiple different startups, but how did Ship Angel come to be?
Take us back.
Yeah, I guess for me, I've kind of spent my career in supply chain and the intersection of supply chain and software. And, I sold my last company, which would have been a good one for that icebreaker when it was Containers with a K. We picked Containers with a K because Containers with a C, the domain was $150,000 and Containers with a K was $10. But yeah, I founded that company and scaled it, and we served a lot of the big shipping companies and freight forwarders. We had customers like Maersk and big freight forwarders like Siva, and I sold that company to Descartes. And I spent the COVID era in Descartes, and I was kind of seeing how painful COVID was for shippers, and you could see how difficult it was. Rates went through the roof. Trans-Pacific rates went from a couple of $1,000s to like $10,000 to $20,000. Numbers never seen before. And you could also see that folks didn't really know where their cargo was all the time. Trying to get bookings confirmed was a nightmare. And I think every major, even Fortune 500 company looked at their supply chain and looked at issues and challenges they had. And when I kind of founded Ship Angel, one of the things was it was kind of clear that there was a need for more enterprise SaaS tools for shippers. And speaking to a bunch of them 16, 18 months ago, it was clear that they were all going to increase budgets to try digitize faster to kind of correct some of the issues that they had during COVID. So that was kind of, the thought process. There was definitely a kind of a line in the sand during the COVID era for shippers, and it was clear that they needed more enterprise modern software. Implementations were super, super difficult and fraught with challenges. So we thought there was an opportunity for a big category winner in this decade to build a suite of brand new products, enterprise grade, AI first in some cases, to serve shippers and solve their problems.
Previously building software for the carriers and for the freight forwarders with containers. Now, after spending a little bit of time on ice with Descartes, coming back, doing it again, and wanting to build software for BCOs, for the shipper side. Is your approach different? Like, how are you thinking about this for Ship Angel that might be either a different take or a different flavor from what you were doing with containers?
Yeah, so I think, the containers journey was great. And, again, working with customers like Maersk and giant freight forwarders, building software, and it gave us a real deep understanding of where they were, which is a really interesting kind of acceleration in the digitization of shipping lines and forwarders over the last decade. But I think the BCO market is so interesting. Like, the US has a database that you can buy from multiple different parties, and it shows there's like 1 million companies imported and exported in 2023. So the market is absolutely gigantic. And I think one of the things is, a lot of these companies are, large brands and well-known brands. And I think the kind of path to buying software and enterprise software in a fast fashion is much, happens a lot more on the shipper side, and the market is so much bigger. And I think for me, kind of coming out of the last journey, I learned a lifetime in 7 or 8 years. And it was kind of like learning about the digitization of the supply chain from where POs are placed right through to kind of goods on shelves in the US. And I think that was a great kind of place to kind of get a deep understanding, and then just look at a market that's so much bigger. There's tens of thousands of forwarders, and there's literally millions of shippers. So the opportunity to build for shippers is super exciting, given the scale of the market. And if you look at the ecosystem, in terms of scale, there's just this kind of obvious opportunity. There's just not a huge amount of brands selling enterprise modern software solutions to shippers.
So Graham, before I came to Plug and Play, I was working for a supplier selling to Walmart, and we had a pretty basic model, no different than any supplier would, where we knew that we were going to sell this product to Walmart, we were going to make X% in margin, and obviously factored in shipping, freight, container pricing, into all that stuff. And then when COVID hit and the pricing just went through the roof, the financials had such a crazy impact, and there was nothing that we could do at the time. Give me some examples of how you saw this, and then you started working with company A, and on the back end of this now, by utilizing your software and your tool, they were able to save something. Anything that you could share from a real life case study example?
Sure. I think the first thing, to be honest, Josh, if during COVID, the rate increases were so significant that some commodities were no longer able to ship. If you have a container that has traditionally cost $3,000 and all of a sudden it's $15,000 to $20,000, and there's a lot of products that it just doesn't make sense to ship from China or Asia anymore. So that was the first thing, and it's similar on exports. One of the biggest commodities on the Trans-Pacific on the export side, US back to Asia, is recyclable goods. And if those rates move 10, 20, 30%, all of a sudden the entire trade, is called into question. So it was very, very challenging. And I guess to give you an example, one of our big customers is a chemical group. And like 90% of shippers, they manage their shipping rates today on a spreadsheet. And that's incredibly difficult. Even in a post-COVID world, and we have the Red Sea crisis right now, we've seen about a dozen surcharges that didn't exist on the 1st of January appear out of nowhere. And so trying to manage rates on spreadsheets is incredibly difficult. So for this chemical customer, they distribute this spreadsheet of rates, and a buyer comes and looks at a deal, factors in a shipping price of, let's call it $3,000, and they put that shipping price in, and they do the deal. And then the following day, somebody from the shipping department says, well, actually that spreadsheet was outdated. And by 3-4 days, that shipping price is now $5,000, plus there's an emergency PSS of another $1,000. And the margin on that chemical transaction for that company has now gone from, 20-30% down to next to zero. And so with the ShipAngel solution, what we've tried to do is give a single source of truth, and a platform where companies can log in. They can see the very latest prices they have, across all different types of contract, from spot to long term to short term, and the real time surcharges, and then enriched. So that a good example now is we had a monthly touch point with that customer last week, and they said that exact scenario has been eliminated. And pre-ShipAngel, that was costing them $25,000 a month in 3 or 4 different scenarios that were occurring over and over again. So that's a good example of where, kind of trying to manage something that's as complicated as international shipping rates in 2024 on a spreadsheet is pretty much impossible.
So Harvey, sorry, I just want to double click on that for a second, because I want to debunk the myth that a company listening to this could say, yeah, I really struggled during COVID when rates went from 3,000 to 20 to 25,000. But now that they're back in they'll never see those rates again. And I don't need to use ShipAngel because I'm better planned for it now, because I don't ever expect those rates to be like that again. Debunk that. Like, why does that not make any sense? And why should they think about using you because, again, of all these other things that are happening in the supply chain?
Yeah, so I think a good example is the Red Sea right now. I mean, the Red Sea has turned into kind of a mini crisis, and it's certainly nowhere near where COVID levels were, but we started to see rates at the end of January kind of hit $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a 40 foot, which was double where they were in December. And again, it's not quite at the COVID level, but if you have international shipping is the biggest line item for so many companies. It's a top 5 line item for almost every company. And if you have that, line item double in the case of in the course of 6 weeks, it's a real problem. And it's not just that; it's also downstream. So I talked about the surcharges. If you've got 12 surcharges that didn't exist and that come out of nowhere, trying to reconcile invoices becomes a nightmare too. We see probably 1 in 7 invoices are probably incorrect right now, and across the industry, which is a huge number. And I also think, like, taking a step back, if you're doing a lot of international shipping by ocean or air, I think the composition of your vendors has changed a little bit too. I think a lot of folks have kind of looked and tried to get a bit more coverage. And, we see a lot of companies not being overly confident now with going all in on 1 or 2 vendors. They want to have a couple of steamship lines, a couple of forwarders there to be able to take those, that optionality, be it a Red Sea crisis or a traditional peak season. And I think when you have that scenario, we probably see customers having an average of 4 vendors now, which is up from probably 2.5 during COVID. So people are definitely, companies are looking to kind of expand that. And if you think about it, every single shipping line, every airline, every freight forwarder has their own rate format. So specifically for us in ShipAngel, what we will see a lot is, a company has 4 vendors. One vendor has a certain type of spreadsheet, another vendor has a PDF, another vendor has a Word document, and then a different spreadsheet. So they literally have to keep 4 vendors updated into their own spreadsheets. So the idea of having to do that with 4 different vendors, or bringing on a 5th spot vendor at peak season, and it's just super difficult to manage. So I think the 2 things are, again, we haven't seen, COVID level increases, and hopefully we never will in our lifetimes. But, we are seeing mini crises constantly. Red Sea, that terrible tragedy in Baltimore last week, that's having a knock-on effect. Supply chains are incredibly complex, and there's just constant events around the world that are causing issues. So I think, we may never see rates skyrocket again, but we've literally just lived through rates doubling in 10 weeks on the Trans-Pacific trade. And I think that's difficult for any vendor to manage. And I think doing it in spreadsheets is kind of pretty much impossible in 2024.
And we're live in ocean. Are we also live in air at the moment?
Yeah, live in air as well. Yeah.
And similar go-to-market for containers, right? I think you also got started in ocean there as well, and then you expanded into other modes. So what's coming next, and how do you think about going from ocean to air? Are we going to do over-the-road trucking? Are we going to do U.S. Canada, U.S. Mexico? How are you thinking about that? And is that in a few years down the road? Where does that fit into your roadmap?
Yeah, good question, Harvey. And we had been talking to one of the world's biggest chip companies in the run-up to December. And the truth is, because of those conversations, we all canceled Christmas and got air live over December and delivered it early. And air is just a natural component for international. We just launched a new feature this week that customers love, which is something that happens regularly. If you're an Intel or a Microsoft, your composition of air and ocean differs depending on time of year and how factories are performing. It could be 50-50 sometimes. It could be 70-30 other times. And there are times where ocean and air are, there's not much in them. So we have a feature where you can literally put them side by side. So you could look at a shipment from, Shanghai to Chicago by ocean and air. And you can compare the prices, the transit times, and the CO2 impact side by side and make a decision. So for us, kind of, going to market with air and 10 weeks after we went live as a company was kind of a big message to the market. And a lot of companies, stay with a single mode of transport for years. And I do think that we'll move to trucking relatively soon. I think our customers, continue to drive our roadmap, and we'll probably see over the road trucking in the next quarter or two. probably, one of our big customers will need it sooner. But I think we're also really excited by, the opportunity I talked about at the start, which is like when we're lucky enough to talk to, some of the biggest shippers in the world every day. And when we talk specifically about rate management, we build our solution to try to solve those problems as best we can. But there's a whole bunch of other issues in the supply chain. So we do see opportunities to build kind of modules right next to rate management that make a lot of sense. A good example of that is booking. So one of our biggest customers didn't have a really good booking flow, and we started to build that in as a module, and we're able to API into the carriers. And then I talked about invoice auditing. So, an automated solution to invoice auditing is probably on the horizon. And we see a world where, ShipAngel becomes more of an operating system. So, a modular-based system, and a little bit like HubSpot. Someone signs up for HubSpot and they have a need in the CRM, and then 2 months later they go, we need to do more marketing. Let's press a button and just bring marketing in. And that's simple to use, instantly available capability.
Graham, tell us about your team. You're very impressive, obviously. And if we were going to have a supplier, CPG, somebody want to work with you guys, what's the team makeup look like?
And
we have.
If I can add on to that, are you getting any of the band back together from Descartes? Are you pulling people from your Henry's days? What's that look like?
I actually kind of, not necessarily the original band, but we are, I built up some really great relationships during the, that journey. And when we started in New York in February last year, we actually came across this great startup called Waysync, and they had a CEO and founder called Ray Yang. Incredible guy, started his career on Wall Street, was a big part of Atom Finance's kind of early product, which became a really big hit on the fintech side. And we actually acquired Waysync during the summer. So Ray came in as our head of product, and so Ray's amazing. Our head of strategy is a guy called Dan Healy, who's had multiple exits, built a bunch of startups, very well known in the New York tech scene. We also have like two kind of rock star heads of engineering, one on the AI side, a lady called Tatiana, who's built our AI ML architecture that we use to ingest the rates without using kind of humans. And then Man Hong, who's built a bunch of great startups on the technical side in New York. So we have a really, really strong team that's kind of, covering all of the bases, all much larger than me.
Are you hiring? Can we plug a few open positions you have right now? So if folks are listening.
Yeah. Hold on, Graham. Harvey, are you looking for a job? Just want to make sure in case Saeed is listening or anybody, just making sure.
I thought this was the best way to just tell you. I've had enough.
This is a safe place, Harvey.
The artwork behind you, Harvey, is better than one behind me, so I definitely think you'd be a good fit.
Perfect. Sign me up, Graham. I'm ready.
We absolutely are. We're constantly hiring on the engineering side. We think about AI a bit differently. We don't do it because it's kind of the cool thing to do. We implement AI where it solves real problems that hasn't been solved before. And so we're constantly hiring there, particularly on the AI side. And then I think the two kind of major roles we're hiring for right now is to expand the customer success team, and then also our first marketing hire. So they're kind of the important ones right now. On the sales side, not so much. Myself and Dan are sprinting towards 1 million ARR, and we'll do that before we kind of expand the sales team.
Yeah, maybe we can plug a link to the website, Josh. When this goes out, folks can apply if they're interested, including yourself, which I will be sending.
Harvey, I know it's sales guy. I mean, you got a few of them, right? You got to be able to help Graham out.
Yeah, exactly. Easy.
Graham, do you have any business in Bentonville? Any plans to be in Bentonville? Any immediate intrinsic value for folks listening here in Bentonville?
Yeah, I mean, for us, obviously, Walmart is always number one on the Trans-Pacific list. They ship more containers than anybody. They are kind of like holy grail customer for us, I guess, as a startup. And obviously the ecosystem around Bentonville is amazing. And again, if you look at like some of the DCs and operations there is a significant amount of international shipping, and there's still a lot of pain around the rate side. So definitely hoping to visit in the coming months and visit some of the big companies in Bentonville.
And you guys just came to market this year, right? I mean, you've incorporated and you formed the business last year, but you really started selling Q1?
Yeah,
January?
we kind of started to have some conversations with customers the middle of October, but really it was January. So we're still quite new, but moving super fast.
And I'm going to take us back to the beginning of our conversation. You had a chance, you wanted to come back, you got the entrepreneurial bug again. Why jump back into supply chain? I mean, you could go into a lot of other industries, presumably, to build your second or third company, but why did you come back into this sector in particular?
I think the opportunity is just so immense. A bunch of my friends live in London and they have fintech companies, and they're trying to carve out this little tiny dot on the map because it's so crowded and so mature. And it feels like supply chain is still is where fintech was a decade ago. And it feels like the opportunity is just, there's a bunch of different spots where you can build great companies. And when I look back on the last decade, my last company, Containers included, I don't think there was like as many category winners as I might have expected. Like when I look at the big areas, I don't see anybody saying, this company have clearly won this. They're so far ahead of everybody else. And to me, that kind of amplifies the opportunity. I think this decade, you're going to see a bunch of great companies actually become category winners. And for me personally, that's what it was all about. It was about, going through an exit and scaling a company was a dream come true. But actually, we want to build a category defining big business. And that's the type of opportunity that exists in supply chain software today.
So if you had a crystal ball, you ran you this first quarter, a couple months back, like what do you see the rest of the year looking like for you? What are your top 2 or 3 priorities that you like to get done over the summer and heading into the fall?
I think building out the team, continuing to building out the team is really important. Like the folks I went through earlier are like truly A players, world-class players in their domains. That's super exciting. So, to continue to hire there and continue to try get some great AI talent, which is difficult given the competition. You're competing against some of the biggest companies in the world. I think that's really important. And we have some revenue goals and some goals in terms of customers, which so far we're on track for. And then I also think product is so important to us. Like we are obsessed with product and building world-class great products. Our solution goes live in like 72 hours. A lot of software out there in this sector is implementation heavy, and that's not really always software driven. And so, customers are really enjoying what we're doing, and we would love at the end of the summer, towards the end of the year, to be continuing to move very fast on product, which would mean other adjacent products that are not rate management. And that would be a big goal for us, and something we're already kind of working towards.
What do you think happens when we kind of as a supply chain industry, like when we kind of unlock and come out of this weird venture market where companies are getting funded, yes, but in smaller amounts. There is a little bit of capital that's locked up on the sideline, especially when it comes to maybe your Series A and Series B investors, right? It's kind of it's a sticky market, and I think it's moving in the right direction, albeit just a little bit more slowly. You guys are coming out in a really nice time, which is kind of in the dip, and then hopefully time it nicely and ride that train right back up to the top when venture capital starts to flow more aggressively into the space. When you talk to your friends in this space and other entrepreneurs, like how are they viewing the next 2 or 3 years of the cycle of innovation, continuing to fund the business, continuing to grow and expand, understanding that the capital market plays a key piece in there? What are those conversations that you guys are having with your other friends in the entrepreneurial community?
Yeah, I think, on the shipper side again, it's not just a feeling that budgets on the digital supply chain go up. Like McKinsey did a study with 700 or 800 shippers last November, and budgets in 2024 have increased again over 2023, which is the third year in a row, which is, shows that the willingness for shippers to continue to move quickly to digitize their supply chain is there. The dollars are there for startups like ShipAngel and others, which is a positive. And like COVID wasn't a blip and they had some pain and they'd forgotten about the pain. They continue to invest and they continue want to see digitization in the supply chain. So I think that's a big factor. And then also, to your point, Harvey, I think we are so lucky to be building right now. I mean, even when I think back to the start of the containers days, I can literally see how much faster and cheaper it is to build. And the cost has gone down, and we're not far off 1 in 4 lines of our code being written by AI right now. And the pace that companies are moving at is really interesting. And I think, if you were a company that was older and had spent a lot of money, and when it was more costly to build, it puts you in a difficult position. So I think that the dollars are there, to kind of grow a business right now. And then I think where the cost to develop has come down quite a bit, and also AI. I mean, the pace of AI and the opportunities that there are to use it within the supply chain with practical applications that you can show work today, make it a really, really interesting combination.
Is it easier to sell into BCOs in freight forwarders, from your days in containers when in innovation, the supply chain tech industry, let's call it, it's 10 years old, it's 15 years old, but today are people more open, I guess, and culturally more willing to start to experiment, prototype, and put stuff into live production? Has that been your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of the big brands are super innovative. I think, the digitization is happening right throughout their company, and one of the things I heard a lot of when I was kind of starting in ShipAngel was, where are the products that I can just, go live with quickly? I mean, there's, people would use the example of like project management tools like Asana, and a team need a project management tool. 1 hour later, they find Asana, put in the corporate card, and a team are using it. It could be company wide in 3 months. And I think companies are trying to kind of unlock that type of value in the supply chain. And when they see it, they're not afraid to back startups, and they see the value. And I think for me, I think definitely you can see the buying process for software in the BCO, and most of the time is much more streamlined than freight forwarders. Because if you're a BCO, you're buying software for so much more, so many different industries. And for forwarding, the last decade was really the first major digitization, and buying software was new. But I think if you're speaking to a Fortune 500 company, they have a very, very set process in how they evaluate vendors and how you can win. And if you're a startup with a good enough product and offering, they're not afraid to use you.
Long-winded question, and probably towards Harvey to answer. Part of the plug-and-play business model is introducing startups like yourself to corporate partners to solve some of their challenges. Right now, there's a lot of emphasis on things like robotics. It's just hot and sexy, and everybody wants to automate the warehouse. When I talk to a corporate partner, there's a really cool startup, but it doesn't fit something that's just relevant for them. To me, if you're talking about shipping things more efficiently, with better costs and stuff getting there on time and in full much faster. This to me sounds like a no-brainer everybody should want to be involved in utilizing this. Harvey, your lens on this space from the outside looking in, to me, it almost seems so simple. Like, who wouldn't want, as a corporate partner, to have a solution like this? It just seems to fit everybody so naturally.
I think Graham said something. I think you nailed it right on the head. I mean, I think we're like in the second wave, maybe. You could maybe debate whether or not we're in the third wave of innovation in this particular category. And Graham was at the very forefront of that with containers earlier on. So Graham's much more able to speak to this than I. But I do think a lot of the companies that are still around today in this space, they are a little clunkier. And maybe they are a little bloated in terms of the code stack or the tech stack and the code base and things that they can produce and create with, more nimbly versus someone like a ShipAngel that's able to come in and just turn over features and products within a week. So I think that when we'll look at this space and try to get a sense for where the real value proposition will lie, it's cool to see companies like ShipAngel coming back and saying there is way more juice to squeeze out of the lemon here, because you will see in the supply chain tech community, we'll go through these 18 to 24 month waves where you'll see this rush of entrepreneurs jumping in. There's a little bit of a fight in terms of who's going to get the most funding. There's a hype bubble. You get articles published in FreightWaves and TechCrunch, and everybody else starts to think, okay, these are the 2 or 3 companies that have got it. Then you don't hear about anything in this space for a while. And then, 1 or 2 of those companies might go out of business. Some of them continue to survive, but they start to, maybe slow down a little bit. And that's kind of where we are now in terms of, timing the dip. I think Graham is just right timing, in terms of putting out a product in a space that has seen a little bit of innovation, but not too much, and building a product for shippers, whereas before, freight forwarders probably were the beneficiary of the innovation in this cycle. So it's a really cool market timing play, I think, for Graham. And Graham, I don't know if you would agree.
Yeah, definitely. I think that second or third cycle piece is important. And it does kind of speak to like how much of the journey is still left in digital supply chain. Like when I told people that, I interviewed 100 shippers before I founded ShipAngel, and 92 out of the 100 use spreadsheets for shipping rates, and a third of those companies were Fortune 500 companies. And people were kind of like, "Are you sure? Like, did you like?" They were really surprised. But of course, I was sure, and that kind of says, the type of innovation that's still needed. Like every vendor still has their own rate template. It's just a real mess, and I think that's kind of like the opportunity. And for us, we said, let's get a solution where we can solve a real problem. To your point, Josh, we can say, our goal is to take down your shipping costs by 3%, which somebody doing a lot of international shipping is millions of dollars, and just getting a solution in place. Like our average time to go live is like 72 hours. There's ROI there in month 1. There's no, let's implement this thing for 12 or 18 months and you'll see an ROI in year 3. I mean, that's not the way a lot of the current enterprise software tools use. Like you can implement them very fast. You can get an ROI very quickly. They're measurable very quickly. I think we need to see more of that. And I mean, we're lucky because we don't want to, kind of legacy, and we're building at the right time, like Harvey said. But I think it's a super interesting time, because I think the shippers are also fully on board. And it feels like we've passed the point to no return on the digitization of the supply chain on the shipper side.
Graham, we're coming up on time. I'd love to have you back on down the road to hear about the successes, and I'm very confident that you'll be there. How can folks reach you? Give me an email address, website, spell it out. Harvey mentioned I'm not a very good speller, so go through the whole thing for folks. I would imagine with our millions and millions of viewers, you're going to be bombarded with contact information just today coming out of this. So let everybody know how to find you.
Yeah, it's shipangel.com and shipangel.com. And, anybody can reach me on LinkedIn, or my email is graham@shipangel.com, GRAHAN. And happy to talk to anybody in the industry. And really appreciate you guys having me on. And hopefully I might be down in Bentonville in the not too distant future.
100%. Graham, thanks for spending some time with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Graham. Good stuff. And we'll stay in touch and hopefully have you back on soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.